saying hello.
Yes. How are you today? Hey,
Well,
so
well.
yeah, Zabrina, thank you. Thank you for being our invited speaker. Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah.
My pleasure. I know it's a few minutes early here, but I am
Yeah.
here and just making sure audio and camera works.
Yes. Great.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Zabrina. Thank you for getting here.
My
As you
pleasure.
can, yes, as you can tell, I am commuting, and I've sent this out to quite a few.
Hi, Kina. Kina is our
Hello,
preside. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello. How's everybody today?
Great. Yes. Thank you for coming here. Yeah. Hey, if you can turn on the camera, at least you can show who you are to our speaker. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. Yes.
Zabrina, thank you for taking the time to speak here. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Kina, could you call Shruthi into the meeting? I'm on my phone, and I'm not that good at working my phone to
I
get
did
her
that.
to.
Thank you. I'm doing that one. Yeah, I will do that every.
Okay. So, Kina, after 1 minute later, you will control it, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, then I'll turn off my camera, then everybody can focus on speaker and you.
Yeah, I think let's start now. Hi everyone, welcome to our Invite to Talk event today. And we are so happy to introduce our speaker today is Zabrina. She is the Director Advisory at KPMG. So today she will share about the story related to the ask of the pilot. So I think can you can start talking and try to share screen if you have any slide.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. It's my pleasure to be able to talk about my career journey, and then also kind of share some of my experiences. So I don't have a full slide deck presented or anything. I do have a single slide, so I can go ahead and try to share, and happy to leave it up as I am talking. Let's see, because I have my LinkedIn contact information that I am happy to share. So let's see. Am I sharing my single slide kind of with my name and info? Okay.
Yeah,
and only that. Yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Morgan. All right. Well, I am just going to kind of talk about my career journey. And when I was previewing this with Morgan the other week, just really talking about the art of the pivot. So I love being able to talk to students about what I get to do because I love my job, but also because I consider cybersecurity my third career. So when I say my third career, I'll kind of walk through what those different career iterations are and really how to be able to leverage transferable skills in being able to pivot and kind of find your career path that makes sense for you, while also making sure that you don't lose the valuable skills that you've acquired along the way. So as it was introduced for me, I am a director with KPMG. I'm with our cybersecurity and tech risk practice. So I get to work with some wonderful clients and supporting them on their compliance journey. So what that means is I get to focus on the payment card industry, so PCI work a lot, and also for different maturity assessments and overall compliance and risk framework work. So that's a little bit of my day today that I get to do. I work with a fantastic team of very talented, smart people at KPMG. Excuse me, that's also what I really enjoy about my job is my coworkers as well as the clients I get to work with. So happy to answer kind of questions, but what I would like to do is kind of just talk through how I ended up where I am today, because it is very, very different from where I started. Thinking that I went to school, my undergraduate degree is in art history. So that's kind of where I like to start my career journey of my undergraduate degree is in art history. And I love art, love history, love learning. And when I graduated, I did what a very good art history major does, and I went and worked for a museum. So I worked for the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Oh, just heard. Okay. So I worked for the Smithsonian for about 4 years, and that was such an amazing job. I learned so much. I got to connect with really a lot of experts and leaders in their field. And so that was very educational for me. And what it was a lot of program coordination. So event coordination, supporting logistics. And what I found with that role, while I really enjoyed it, I was looking for something more and looking for what does advancement in that field look like. And so in the museum world, what I learned is if you really want to advance, you generally would need an advanced degree. So, okay, I reflected on that and I decided to go earn my master's degree. So I did my research and I ended up in London. So I had an international experience and I went and earned a specialized business degree. So I do have my master's degree. And following my master's degree, this is kind of my first pivot. So if you consider the museum world for an art history major as my first career, my second career ended up landing me in Los Angeles, California with Walt Disney working for an animated production. So my second career, which was another amazing career, was I was privileged to work on animated television shows. So that's also a fun fact that I really enjoy talking about of my time working with the artists. So if you think about the through line of the pivot and transferable skills, what I did was take my logistical coordination skills that I had developed at the Smithsonian and was able to leverage them in the animation world. So instead of organizing multiple simultaneous lectures and evening events, I was coordinating multiple television shows for production. So I was able to work for Walt Disney Television Animation, and then I also worked for Warner Brothers, Bento Box. So I worked on the Emmy Award-winning series Bob's Burgers, if any of you have heard of that show. So really leaning into that career time. Now, listening to this story, you might think, why did you ever leave, Zabrina? Well, on the journey to finding technology, what I was doing every step of the way was kind of evaluating what was it fulfilling multiple aspects that I had an interest in. So if you think about your career, I'm sure there's many different factors, and the weight you place on them, that's going to be so unique for each of you as an individual. So some of my factors were career fulfillment. Was I enjoying day to day what I was doing? So that was one factor. And then also, was I enjoying my team? So that's another factor. Was I learning? And this is important for me personally. Was I learning? Was there career growth? What did career advancement look like for this particular field? And then also another aspect that I don't think is talked enough about when you're looking at careers is earning potential. So if you're trying to decide what direction to take your career, that's an important thing to consider. What is your earning potential? And there's so many more resources now than even 10 years ago on how to research and understand what earning potential, job salaries, starting salaries can be in any given field. So when you look at all of those different factors and what your individual circumstances are, seeing how they line up for that career fulfillment. So when I was in animation, I was struggling personally with the learning and growth. I was struggling with the sense of stability that was particularly unique at the time to animation. Whereas one animated season perhaps ended, and then the entire production was having to look for another job again. So that was really an environment of constant job seeking, which that works for some people, but I was kind of feeling like it wasn't really what I was wanting for my long-term career. I was wanting something a little bit more stable. And then also earning potential. So that was something that was a lesson learned when I transferred from my first career of the nonprofit museum world. I made certain assumptions on what earning potential would look like in the for-profit, entertainment industry. Now, those were different metrics. And so what I was realizing is I wanted a higher earning potential for myself, especially given at the time I already had a master's degree. So kind of looking at all of those different factors and what I was looking for, I was trying to decide what that next career pivot could look like. And so I was networking around, and I was fortunate to be able to get my resume on the right desk that I was able to pivot into cybersecurity program management. Now, that was a pretty big pivot. And this is where it gets particularly interesting, and might be applicable for those of you on this call who are looking at what job or career experience do you have to date, and what does pivoting into the technology or cybersecurity industry look like? So that's what I did. And so that's where my third career kind of comes into place. And this was several years ago now, of I had the opportunity to pitch myself, pitch my transferable skills of how I could be successful pivoting into a cybersecurity program management role. And I have since definitely grown in that time. But that's what was really interesting. So I went from working on an animated television show, working with multiple artists, screenwriters, editors, but to tight deadlines. And I was able to transfer those skills into the consulting world. So my cybersecurity experience was with a consulting firm, and that allowed me to work with multiple clients. But I was working with multiple teams of consultants and multiple clients doing different types of cybersecurity work all simultaneously, which was really exciting, really engaging, and allowed me to learn so much. But I had to learn so much so fast. And that's both exciting and daunting. And that's one of those things when you're looking to make that career transition, it's possible, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And you have to have that kind of mental fortitude to be prepared for that journey. It's possible, but understanding that you need to position your skill set in such a way so that you help whomever you're interviewing with understand you're connecting the dots for them. And so that's what I found I was able to do to get my first cybersecurity job. And then now, getting to work with KPMG, there has been so much learning potential. And that's what I really, really enjoy and get excited about with cybersecurity. There's updated regulations that are constantly evolving. The technology just is changing year over year. I mean, you have artificial intelligence, which has switched things up a little bit. And so it's such an interesting field. And all of you in school are getting that wonderful foundational knowledge. But I'm sure you're also seeing that it's a continuous learning model. And so that's what's awesome with cybersecurity. It's a large career umbrella of the different areas that you can focus on in cybersecurity. And so that's what I found for myself. When I finally pivoted, I had to learn so much so quickly to be successful. And that's also with that learning mindset. And I was fortunate to have resources, people in my corner who were willing to help. So that's another thing as you're kind of looking at your career and helping to set yourself up for success is build your network. Have your personal board of directors who you can pull from if you need support, if you need different resources to give yourself that best foundation for success. So what I did when I was pivoting into cybersecurity is I had my go-to person. And in my particular case, it was my brother. So my younger brother, just the two of us, is one of my biggest champions, and he had always been in cybersecurity. So he was there able to help me understand in a way that I didn't feel bad or embarrassed of asking for help because I knew that I would get the help and support that I needed. But I had to make sure that I asked for it, and I had to make sure that I was learning and remembering. So I had that kind of resource that helped me be successful in my career transition. So that's something kind of when you're looking at your first job, your big shot when you graduate with your degree and you're going out into the world, or even if you're doing your internship, how to maximize those opportunities. And it's don't be afraid of asking questions. Don't be afraid of asking for help, but make sure you're mindful of the who and the when and the how that you're asking for those questions so that you have your best foundation for success and for learning. And so that's where making sure that you have your network, your fellow students, your trusted mentors who are your foundation that you're just going to be able to build upon and expand from. Pausing there for a breath. So for the cybersecurity journey then, so once I had my shot, I had to learn everything so fast. And that's what was both exciting and daunting, was to be able to do that. And then now in my journey, I have my CISSP. I made sure to prioritize studying and learning for that as soon as I can, because what my background was, I did not have the luxury to point to a cybersecurity degree. And what's interesting when you go out into the industry is the number of people like me who did pivot into cybersecurity, but also the growing job need and that growing emphasis on the foundational skills and knowledge that education and schools such as this are investing in people so that the workforce does have those foundations, so that when you start your job, you have that basic knowledge to give you that advantage. So I had to learn my job, and then I felt the pressure to basically prove myself also, because again, this was my third career and I was pivoting. I had to make sure that while I was leveraging my resources, that I was still performing and able to meet or exceed those expectations. So there's different job roles in cybersecurity, and I'm sure that's what most of you have come to understand now. When I talk about jobs in cybersecurity, I consider it like everything is under the cybersecurity umbrella. And from that, you have different roles with different technical needs, different technical emphasis, but also different skill set emphasis. And so that's what's also fun, is to ask yourself, and this goes back to kind of knowing yourself and your interests and your strengths, where your interest and skill set lies. Are you all being drawn down a more technical path, hands-on keyboard? Are you trying everything to be able to give yourself that best chance of discovery to learn those things? But also making sure that you are not neglecting any of those soft skills. So regardless of what role or what path in cybersecurity you take, soft skills like communication could be so important, because if you think about any role that you would have, having some basic soft skills in communication is going to help you, because if you're trying to communicate to your manager, to your executive, or to your team, anything that you are finding, or what's important, or what's something alarming that you've discovered in your network, depending on your role, you need to be able to communicate that clearly and putting the right emphasis where you need to be able to have the best shot at getting the person's attention and the desired action and outcome that you're looking for. So that's what I'll also share with all of you here, of there's so many different skill sets of the technical and then also some of those soft skills that when they complement each other, that's going to just give you such an advantage in your career, to not only be really good in your role, but to be able to help others understand the impact that you are making in your role. And that's the piece of career advancement to keep in mind, of it's not just about being really good at your particular job, but making sure that others understand the value you're bringing to the team and your organization. So just kind of pausing there as well. How am I doing, Morgan? Or on?
Hi. Oh, so thank you for your sharing. The first I wanna ask everyone, if have any question, you can just raise your hand and ask a question to our speaker, or just put in the chat if you are shy.
So
I
Sam
think,
has his hand up. I made some comments and questions in the chat. So Sam,
Oh,
you want
you
to go
did?
first?
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, yes, thank you. Then also you are emphasizing technical skill plus soft skills. Sometimes a soft skill does not look like a technical school. A technical skill, go there, let's practice it, yes, you can earn it. But soft skill need us a very diverse inputs or even need us activity. While they are studying here as a student, our student, they are full-time parents sometimes, but sometimes young people also, they are just a full-time student. How especially who did not have a real experience, but they are studying our program here. How, based upon your experience, what kind of approach do you recommend to improve or advance their soft skills? Yeah.
Okay, so I understood the question of, given the different commitments and backgrounds that the students have while learning their technical skills, what are some ways that they can also develop their soft skills? So that's where you look at your pretty much extracurriculars are also within how your school projects are organized. So if you have the opportunity to present your research, present what project it is you're working on, take those opportunities. Share with other students what you are presenting, even something as simple as that. And I'm sure those opportunities come up in the academic setting, because if you're able to communicate to your fellow students what you're learning, that's that soft skills practice right there. And additionally, if you are out in the world, say for my parents who are out there and you're chatting with other people who are not in the cybersecurity world, are you able to explain what it is you're studying in a simplified way that it's understood? And so that's kind of a soft skills challenge of, you're in the weeds, you're doing very technical work, you're probably, I would hope, excited about what you're learning. So if you then take a step back and think about anybody else you would be interacting with, your parents, a grandparents are also excellent to practice, because if you're able to explain complex cybersecurity terms to a grandparent in a way that they, even high level, like, oh, I understand what you're studying and how it could impact, a business or the world, that's going to be a really good exercise to get good at.
So Zabrina, I have a question for you. And
Yeah.
there is a story here. When you did your first pivot,
Yes.
and you said you got your resume on the right desk, there's a
Yeah.
story behind that. It just doesn't float in there. Could you share how you managed to do that, and more than once?
Yeah, absolutely. So job hunting is such a challenge, right? It really is. And even with all of my different careers and companies that I've worked with across my three jobs, I have been able to essentially network my way to getting the opportunity to at least interview. And aside from my very, very first job, which was a cold apply through the internet, I've been able to network to at least have somebody look at my resume. So when I said I got my resume on the right desk, that's really kind of what it comes down to, because over the course of my journey, like I'm talking about the highlights, but I'm also not mentioning all of the jobs I applied to that I didn't get, you know, all of the attempts that I tried that I wasn't hired. I wasn't the right fit at the right time or for that right team. So being able to have that mindset still of your right fit is out there. And that's what I meant by landing on the right desk. So the desk of the person who at that time needed the skills that I was bringing.
And another thing I want to mention, it's tough when you're commuting. There's an art to networking. And that's something I'm going to ask people in this, not only in this invited talk, but at STC, is if they would like to, between quarters, take a short workshop on the art of networking and how to get your resume on the right desk, how to get in front of people. So could you also dig down a little bit more on those transferable skills? Because to go from museum curation to animation to cybersecurity, come on, that's got to be interesting. More
Yes.
detail.
Yes. So that took practice. So I'm gonna be honest with this group. It took practice. It took me showing up to countless networking events and just talking to people. And I spent so many evenings feeling awkward, feeling like I could have said something better or different, but that's what I needed to do to learn. And just go out there and be vulnerable and be okay with it. Networking takes bravery. And I would like to think that I am articulate and well spoken for you all today, but this comes from a lot of practice. This comes from a lot of different talks over the years where I had to tell my story, where I had to be able to explain what those transferable skills were. So I like being able to just show up. And that's something that I've also learned. Do not discount the power of just showing up, of being in the same room. And sometimes, like, it can be exhausting, and especially for those of us in the greater Seattle Bellevue area, traffic's annoying. Traffic is very daunting. Even when I lived in Los Angeles, traffic was terrible there too. Like traffic is just a thing that we professionals have to navigate in our world. So if you're tired, but you really think that you want to go to that networking event, if you are able to, just show up and give yourself the challenge. Not that you're going to show up and immediately get a job, but give yourself a little challenge of at least say hello to 3 people or whatever you need to give yourself a little kind of goal to be, just to put yourself out there. And for some of my first networking events, really my goal was just to make myself show up. I didn't even put any pressure on myself to talk to people because I knew enough that if I at least showed up, I would talk to people. But sometimes the introvert in me just really kicks in and I need to pep talk myself of like, just show up. And that has made such a difference in my career journey of giving myself the opportunity to meet and talk to a lot of people.
Are there certain events, and we have a mixed group of people here. There are some people in cybersecurity, software development. I think I have a couple people here in AI. What types of events would you recommend?
So I really, really enjoy professional networking events. And there are several in our area that I've personally been involved in. And I just think professional networking events are great. And even when I was not in cybersecurity in my other career phases or career eras, I'll use that. Um, I was part of different professional organizations. And so you kind of can try those out also. So in our local region, we have Information Systems Security Association, and so ISSA, and that is one of, if not the oldest, like security professional organization. So ISSA, we have a Puget Sound chapter that meets in Mercer Island the third Thursday of every month. And they've also started a Rainier chapter that meets down closer to Tacoma. And that's kind of a broad security organization, but I really like that group for its networking opportunities. But there's also specialty professional groups. There's the Cloud Security Alliance. There's an AI group. There's a hardware group, and forgive me, I'm forgetting those different names, but the point is, whatever you're professionally interested in, find those people and show up where they're showing up. All right, is this kind of resonating with
She
people?
cannot read the meeting chat, so I go have everyone to read it.
Okay.
Yeah, because you cannot see the chat, right? Like someone
Right.
they put some comment
No, I know
there, but I know you cannot see it.
Well,
Okay.
we can share share the screen, yeah, of the chat for her.
Oh, okay. I think that should
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, because what I really
Well, that's a
want
good
to be
idea.
able to answer questions. Because this group, it's I'm just so excited for everyone's journey, but also recognizing that everyone's journey and background are different. So kind of what are people interested in?
Okay, let me check it. Maybe I should share the screen. I'm not sure really if I share my or I cannot share screen.
And this is a chance for people to unmute and talk to Zabrina. Zabrina, also,
Yeah.
could you talk to them more about women in cybersecurity and why it's more than just for cybersecurity people and just more than for women, even though we do outnumber everybody?
Yeah,
Because you've been
absolutely.
very active.
Yeah, so another group that I am personally passionate about is Women in Cybersecurity, or WESIS. And for anyone interested in that group, it's wesis.org. And I've been involved with WESIS for about 5 years now. And that's been a really great community. It's a global nonprofit that just keeps growing. And WESIS provides resources, it provides additional education, internship opportunities, job postings. They have specialty affiliate groups. So 5 years ago, I was one of the co-founding members of our local Western Washington affiliate. And I personally did that because I was looking for a community who was interested in learning and growing and talking cybersecurity. And 5 years ago, I didn't really find one. So I helped found one. And that's also a fantastic thing for anyone who has the extra time. Get involved. So not only are you showing up to a networking group, but if you find that you like it, like volunteer to get involved. So that's what I did with women in cybersecurity. And now in the last couple months, I've pivoted from more of the regional focus to the BISO affiliate. So I'm now part of the leadership team for the Business Information Security Officer. That's what the BISO stands for. And so that's being able to look for more of that advancing piece for women in cybersecurity. Now, the other thing that Morgan had asked me to talk about with WESIS is it's not just for women, because to make any type of change or with inclusion, you're needing to be able to do it in collaboration with allies. So any change that you're trying to make, it can't be done in a vacuum. You need your allies, you need your champions, you need your supporters. And so WESIS as an organization does welcome male allies. The National WESIS Conference, I think 10% are men who are invited to also participate. So definitely wanting to make sure that somebody who wants to be an ally to a different group, that you feel like you're able to show up and not only learn yourself, but be able to show up and take advantage of the learning opportunities. And that's what I personally really appreciate about WESIS also. Let's see, I see some questions on the screen. What I do want to call out before I forget with professional groups, because I've also leveraged them this way, they are a great network if any of you find that you are moving or relocating as part of your career journey. So if you're going to school here, but you end up relocating in another state, those types of professional organizations and communities are national, if not international. And so that's something when you're trying to figure out how to establish a network or even make friends or settle into a new city or state, don't discount the professional organizations, because it's so fun. And I use this myself, because in my career journey, I've moved to different states as well. To be able to show up to a chapter meeting and say that you're a chapter member or a organization member, but from a different chapter, that's such an easy icebreaker. And people want to be welcoming of like, oh, welcome to the area. And then you automatically have something to talk about. So that's such a good icebreaker. And whether you are thinking of a move now or 5 years into your career and you're having to geographically at least start over, remember your professional organizations and make sure that you're taking advantage of them for that resource as well. Okay. So I'm seeing a question. How can you persuade a recruiter that you have all the qualifications that you need without a background in security? So that's a tricky one, but I'm sure that's one that people are constantly wondering, how do you persuade a recruiter? And the challenging thing is you're not necessarily persuading a recruiter. A recruiter is looking for a very specific thing. And in the sea of resumes, if you even are fortunate enough to get the interview, you've already piqued their interest. So if you're fortunate enough to get an interview with the recruiter, then that's where you're really playing up your transferable skills. But you need to do it in such a way that you connect the dots. So for any recruiter that you would be talking to, put yourself in their mindset. They don't know the details of every cybersecurity job that they've been tasked to recruit for. They know the wish list that comes from the hiring manager, and they are looking to most closely match that. So what your job, your challenge is is to be able to connect the dots for them. Don't leave them to wonder how your I'm just even going to say restaurant skills are transferable to success in cybersecurity. You need to be able to say, because you were in a high paced, high stress environment, such as Friday night restaurant, that you would be able to have a good um, uh, disposition, resiliency for incident response, for example. So that's just one example off the top of my head, but those are the types of stories that you need to be prepared to be able to tell. Don't try to expect somebody to make those connections for you because they just don't have the time and mental energy to do that. And that's where you need to be your own best advocate of connect your transferable skills to whatever the job that you're applying for is. And that would be my advice for giving yourself your best shot. Now, the recruiter, this also kind of comes back to what I was saying before about getting your resume on the right desk. So, the right desk might not be a recruiter's desk. You are also trying to understand who are the hiring managers, who are the people whose team you would be joining, and they have that vested interest of finding a good match, not only for the skill set, but for the existing team that they have. So just in the last 2 weeks, I've had different people in my network reach out to me because they got approval to open a job requisition. They're the hiring manager and they want to be able to help send good people to the recruiter or even bypass the recruiter in some cases and make sure that they're able to interview people directly. So that's what you're also looking for in your networking, in your conversations. Who is in the hiring manager capacity who's actually able to influence and perhaps be a little bit more creative in their thinking so that you can help sell your transferable skills to that particular case. Let's see, I'm seeing some great suggestions about networking events, San Francisco Bay Area networking. Let's see, student members. Yeah, so there's so many different interest groups out there. That's one of my biggest recommendations for students or job seekers or anyone trying to pivot is join a professional organization, because what that automatically gives you, as long as you show up to your network, is a lot of interaction with people who will be able to help you learn, help you introduce to other people. But also, if you think about it on your resume, add it to your resume. Add that you are a member of whatever professional organization, because that gives you one more thing on your resume that says this person is interested in cybersecurity or this person is interested in technology. So in my my pivoting journey, that's also something that I did. I volunteered and I joined professional organizations. And that way I was able to craft my resume to reflect those experiences, reflect that I was personally investing my time in this area, in this industry. So that's also something that you can do to give yourself your best shot when you're out there job hunting. All right.
I have another question for you, Sabrina.
Yeah.
You have your CISSP,
Yes.
all right? And in fact, we actually have an undergraduate student who also has a CISSP, without having a deeply technical background. So could you explain your journey? Because the CISSP is the gold standard for people that want to get into security, and they have different levels, like they have an associate level, so that you to make up for years of experience that you may not have. So could you talk about how you studied for that, what you went through, the whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am very proud of that because as Morgan, you said, it is highly regarded in the industry. If you're a person who holds your CISSP, that means that I have passed a rigorous exam and I have a certain number of years of experience that I had to submit verification for. Now, ISC2, the kind of certifying body for that particular certification, they also have their entry level, which is the CC, so the Certified in Cybersecurity, which is a version of that exam, but without the 5 years of the career experience. So to study for that, I did a multi-pronged approach to my learning. So I did a 1 week virtual boot camp, which I was very fortunate to have that opportunity to do it through work. I can also say that some of the nonprofit professional organizations are offering that. I think there is one coming up in the next month or so with ISSA. So there are boot camp learning opportunities. There's also a free app that I downloaded and I did flashcards. I did practice quizzes. I watched the app dashboard kind of go from green or from red to yellow to green to help show how I was doing. I studied books. So it's really about knowing your learning style. And I hope as students, you're paying attention to that of what is your learning style to get the most out of the material. So for me, it was actually my self-study with the books that I used and the practice quizzes. The virtual boot camp was a little bit challenging for me just with how it was presented, but it was still good exposure to the concepts. So I studied and I also delayed my exam. So that's another thing that I will share with you. I was signed up to take the exam and it was fast approaching. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready. I'm not ready, but I know I still need to take it. So I paid the, like, I don't know, the fee to get it rescheduled because I wanted to make sure to reschedule it, but I needed a little bit more time. And I am proud, very proud, that I passed the exam on my first attempt, but I passed it on the first attempt after I had delayed it about 6 weeks so that I could continue studying more. So that's also the thing for anyone who's looking at studying or taking an exam. It's okay to not feel ready in the moment, but still make sure that you try, that you make your attempt. Because if I had just canceled instead of rescheduled, that wouldn't have felt authentic for me. But I know several people who have done a boot camp, have studied, and then just have not even tried to take the exam. And so that's what I would encourage you, like, at least attempt the exam because you might pass. Or if you don't pass, at least you would have learned and had that experience to be better equipped to try again.
That's good advice, and we are discussing hosting. We'll see how that conversation goes with the education committee.
I think that's something else I'm following up with you about, Morgan. So we can chat more about that. But that's also just what I like sharing in these talks of I do try to be as realistic as possible of I was so stressed about it. I was so nervous about my exam. I did reschedule it so that it's easy to look at different professionals who are out there just being amazing in their field and not thinking that they had to struggle or the different attempts that maybe they weren't successful in. And so that's also what I want people to remember of it's okay to try and fail, but having that mindset that as long as you're learning something from it, you can keep going and don't be discouraged. Because if it's something that you really want, you want to learn, you want to pass an exam, you want to get a certification, you want a job, like it's gonna take effort, and don't be so afraid of failing or not passing that you're not even allowing yourself to try.
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you for your talk. I think some people may not know your company, KPMG.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, would you explain this one? Also, you have a museum experience and designing. Some part of art we can see that from designing to here. Also, if you have a common things because of what you could come to the KPMG a little explain, and then people can see that. Also, KPMG is a great company, but some people they don't know what the KPMG means. Yes, go ahead.
Sure. So yes, for those of you joining now or who had missed the beginning, I am currently a director with KPMG. So it is a consulting firm, and it's what's known as the Big Four. So it's one of the fourth largest in the world professional services firm, and it's peers with other firms that somebody might have heard of, such as Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCooper, known as PwC, Ernst & Young, also known as EY. And those organizations also do a lot of work with like audit or tax, internal audit. So the cybersecurity services are a exciting but small part of the larger organization. And what's really awesome about being able to work for KPMG and all of my very talented and smart colleagues is whatever a business need is. So if I'm out talking to a client or networking, if somebody has a business problem, I'm like, I have a KPMG colleague who is able to help with that. So that gives a little bit more context for somebody who doesn't know about KPMG, and also the letters. So that's another question. KPMG, what it stands for, that's through the different mergers of the different firms. So don't ask me to exactly explain. It's like Pete Marwick and the different names. So that's one of those firm history lessons of they've merged differently throughout the decades, because it's a decades old firm that has kind of evolved to be KPMG to this day. So much the way like law firms are people's names. You're like, why are they people's names? That kind of goes back to some of the founders. Oh, somebody did the research there. Love it. Thank you. All those fun names, those last names go into KPMG. Thank you. I'll answer that question better next time. So that's another thing of my particular job is in consulting. And that's what I kind of started out talking about of consulting. I get to work with a lot of different clients with different business needs. And that is a different career path than somebody who maybe is working in a single company. So we have a lot of large employers in the Seattle area. And so that looks different. If you're going to work for one of our large employers in the area, your day to day being able to focus on your direct team, on your particular skill set with that team is going to look a little bit different than if you choose to go with a consulting firm where you have maybe shorter projects, but you get to work with a lot of different companies. And so that's also a different thing for consideration of who you're going to take your skill set to. Do you want to go consulting if that's something that you're interested in? Or does your particular cyber career path lend itself more to an individual company that you would grow with from there?
Thank you so much. So if anyone have any question, anyone have any question?
Are there other questions? This is the time to ask. Clark, I thought I saw you had something in there.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I can talk about my question. So I would consider myself currently in between again. So I'm currently a full-time student doing my MBA. I'm doing some part-time work. How can I, sell myself, convince a recruiter, and because like I'm in this situation because of tech layoffs, right? And I do have like a lot of experience already as a software engineer, financial analyst, and also a lot of other different industries and a lot of volunteer work as well. Um, I'm curious if mentioning, oh, you got laid off, is it's like a negative connotation, right? So if you probably, maybe you may not have the same experience, but maybe do you have like similar colleagues or like from your network that had found success afterwards with kind of like in the same boat? Yep.
So, with the economic environment that we all find ourselves in, tech layoffs have become very common
Mm-hmm.
in such a way that perhaps they were not common, 2, 3 years ago. But in the last 2 years, the last 2 years, that's just the industry shift that we've seen. And so there's so many people who are in those circumstances that through just business needs have changed. The pandemic changed industry, changed industry needs. So making sure that nobody internalizes a layoff, because that's just kind of what the industry is doing now. So it's making sure that you're comfortable enough to address it, but
Mm-hmm.
not dwell on it.
Got it.
That
It's a good
that would
point.
be, yeah, that would be my perspective of address it. Of, you were one of several in that particular round of tech layoffs. And if you have context as to why that business decision was made, you could also highlight that business decision. And that's a way that it's not about you or your skills in that moment of the layoff. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that was that business need. And you, like so many people currently, are looking for your next opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. That really gave me an idea because like the business need shifted to move developers from internal apps to more customer facing, and then there's the prevalence of like AI. And what makes sense there is now I'm learning a lot of AI as well, trying to reskill and hopefully be you know um attractive in the job market. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great, because that goes back to, if you're able to articulate the business decision, that shows that you understand that, and potentially would be more aware of it in the future, to keep what are the business needs in the future so that you can be able to support those.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, good. I see somebody linked to my LinkedIn. So yes, I hope to have a few more connection requests when I look next.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for being here today. I think that we will end session now. So Morgan, do you wanna say anything to Brian?
Okay, I first of all, I want to thank Zabrina for giving us really a good picture of what many of our students are going to be going through. I hope all of you will take the opportunity to link in with her. And then Zabrina, I want to sit down and talk to you about, well, not only the CISSP, but there was a time in my previous career where I used to help job changers. And so the whole process of networking, and I don't mean the technical stuff, folks. I mean what Zabrina is the mistress of. I mean, you have mastered this. I'm very excited about continuing our relationship. So thank you
Yeah,
for taking the time.
I'm happy to talk networking also. That, you know, I still get my introvert the pep talk to go out there. So happy to do that.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so
Time
much.
again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Yeah,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.